How's it going, everybody? Danny Vega here, aka Danny V, and I have a very special guest today. Welcome to TDV Live. If you don't know what the podcast is about, this is all about the mental side of things. Like we like to call it mental fitness. So to make sure, no, not anymore. But no, this is to grow your mental. So basically, all my guests on here is how to expand the mind and awareness and success. So I have a very special guest today. She's been one of my mentors for many years. I'm talking about I've met her when I was about 14 years old in the martial arts school, Miss Robin Robertson. She's absolutely amazing. A master in the martial arts, but not only that, also a yogi, an absolute fantastic yogi who taught me Ashtanga yoga. And if you guys saw my videos before on my healing journey right now, Ashtanga is actually doing it up. So, yes, Robin, how's it going?
Oh my God, I'm doing good. Now I'm doing really good.
For those that don't know, we had some audio issues before this. Had about an hour of tech support, but we made it through.
That's right.
So Robin, you're originally from Sweden. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, when did you come to the States?
Okay, yeah. So I was born and raised in Sweden. I have my parents are not born in Sweden. They're from Spain and the Philippines. So multicultural from the start teaches you a lot of things that you don't necessarily uh, get when you're in just one box. So I was already shoved in all kinds of boxes from a very young age. And then I came to America when I was 24. I wanted to go to school, and I wanted to go into hotel management because I figured hotels are everywhere in the world, and I wasn't sure where I wanted to be. So that was a good start. So I came here, and then
That's really
yeah,
interesting. Hotel management?
I know. I'm a good manager.
You are, no doubt about that. But man, what a difference. I like that. All right, keep going. That's one thing, ladies and gentlemen. I've known this lady forever. And I've just found out hotel management. That's awesome.
So then, as I was going through this to this college here, I was very scared of not getting my fitness in, because as a European coming to America was like, oh, you're just gonna eat and you're just gonna grow fat, at that point, that was very important, so I want to make sure I got my fitness in. So at that time, the latest trend was Taibo and kickboxing, and I wanted to do that. And then I called a school, not knowing it was a school that you needed to commit for a while and going up ranks and stuff. I didn't know what I was getting into. And then I knew my dad was going to be really happy if I said I was doing martial arts. So I knew he was going to pay for it. He always wanted me to learn self-defense. So that's how I got into martial arts.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. Didn't your dad used to train? Because every time I see him, he's always hitting the bag. Always. Doesn't matter where we are. If he sees a bag, he has to go up and he has to hit it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Yeah, he trained in judo when he was younger. And I do think he dabbled a little bit with karate too. But at later, I mean, now he's 80, like literally he's 80. So, but he likes to do the kickboxing with the music and kicking bags, and it's fun. It's a little bit, he does a little dance before he kicks the bag, so yes, so that's what, yeah, and he truly believe in, obviously his girl needs to know how to do self-defense. So
that was awesome because he doesn't look 80. Like even pictures now I see, like I'm like there's no way, cuz every time, even when I met him all those years ago, all the time. It didn't matter. Me growing up in the school, anytime I saw him, he just has to go and he has to hit. And I was like, man, he's very serious about it. Did your mom ever train or no?
No. Okay, so I got, well, she trains now. She but not martial arts. She does the little, I don't know, silver sneakers at her gym. But
Mm.
she's doing good. Like as far as she moves and she likes it, she do the little samba. She does have no rhythm whatsoever. I got all my rhythm from my Filipino side. So
Your brother was a big soccer player, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, he was a professional soccer player since he was 17, and he was rough at times because being not the traditional Swedish family, and we had not a traditional Swedish name. Everybody knew who he was, and we look alike. Well, I don't think so, but people say it. They only both of us are not blonde and blue. Yes, I don't know, but so it was very much associated with him throughout my all the informative years, and finding your own identity was a little bit rough because I was always his sister. I was never, me. So I done very early on a lot of things to kind of trying to be me. And I think that had a big impact, and I'm not absolutely not blaming him or anything like that. I think it was great. I mean, that was the thing. I'm super proud of him, really good. But everybody knew me as his sister, and I didn't like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I liked it. I didn't like it. It was just kind of, yeah.
Oh,
So I think
I know that feeling.
yeah. There you do.
I know that feeling in the martial arts world. No pun intended.
Mhm.
Oh, aren't you so and so? And yeah, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it is important too. Like even when I start training, when I start dating Master Robertson, it was very important. I think for both of us, and that I was Robin, or whatever titles and nicknames I had throughout the years. I was never associated with him. A lot of people didn't even know we were, and we never really been like open about that until they know. But I think it was important because otherwise you're seen differently. I don't think it affect him as much as it would for me.
Hmm.
Being a martial artist has its stigmatism in itself.
Mm.
Uh, so uh, I was really happy that I could, that he allowed me to be me, and develop me as my own style or my own
Hmm.
personality in martial arts, so to speak.
So, for listeners out there that have a big brother or sister or someone that's in the shadows of, I wouldn't say someone bigger, but someone that is known pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, your brother was known. You were in that shadow. Master Robertson was very known in our school. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so obviously you didn't want to be in that shadow as well. For me personally, me and Walter, that was it.
Yes.
It was just like, oh, Walter and DV, but it was kind of like, oh well, DV just tags along type of deal.
Yeah.
So like, what would you give our audience some tips on how they can be themselves and how they can shine in their own way, even if they do have similar interests, like how you and Master Robertson have?
I think it always starts from knowing yourself. So with everything you do, you have to be searching for who you are first, or knowing who you are, or knowing that you don't know entirely everything, or knowing that there's things of you that will change. But be very secure within yourself, because I think um, with being, like I said, it was my formative years. When it came to my brother, I wanted to establish myself, but I wasn't sure who I really was. Was I really good at soccer? I didn't really had the opportunity to explore that. I could have, but I never did. I never really did anything with sports because I was afraid of being his shadow, but knowing that I was totally different from him. I needed to know that, but I think I could look back at it now to see it's easier, but at that time it was harder. So I would always recommend to just search for who you are first and foremost, and not worry about, you know, the other person or the big shadow that you're, it could be good, it could be positive, it could lead you to places that you weren't necessarily always going to anyways, or if you didn't have that big shadow over you. So it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, just it's just kind of how you look at it.
I highly agree on that one. I really do. Because you know my journey more than anybody.
Yeah.
And the thing that helped me a lot is that me and Walt had very similar interests, you know,
Yeah.
very similar. So for me, it was more on getting my principles and values in check. It was really getting that in check because, you know, growing up without my father, with, you know, my mom and her, you know, own conditioning, you know,
Mhm.
I had a really rough time of figuring out who I was, what are my values, and stuff like that. And for a lot of people, you either learn the easy way or the hard way. And unfortunately, mine, mine was more on trial and error until I got into this space. And I really do believe that that's sometimes what it takes. A lot of people are afraid to make those mistakes. A lot of people are afraid, you know, because all of us are human. We want it now. Everything's now, 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 now. I want my success now. I want this now. But sometimes it takes going through that to
Mhm.
become who you are, to
Mhm.
attract those things. I don't really believe necessarily, you know, sometimes we ask life for certain things and they don't come because it's not who we are yet. We have to
Exactly.
become that person to get there.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I usually use the example of my three kids. So there are three different personalities, and they learn three different ways. So my oldest, Rasmus, he's 14, and I use, like, for using the example of the wall, right, hitting the wall. So he would not hit the wall. He would listen to me and like look at things around him, and he's smart enough. He can walk around the wall. The only reason why he would not walk around it and miss the wall, or actually not hit the wall, it would be because he's too lazy, right? So he's like, oh, dang it. Right. Yeah, that was dumb. I knew that kind of deal. But he will hit the wall. But again, it's not, it's the lessons, right? And then, so you have Rizana, who's very similar personality like me. She's just like, let's go, let's happen now, and jumping around, and has all these artistic talents. And she would hit, and I was like, watch out for the wall. She will hit the wall, hit the wall, hit the wall. Oh, okay, now I know, I see what you're saying. No matter, like, she would look at me and say, like, what are you talking about? And then she would hit the wall, and then I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, okay. But she will learn that way. So then you have Rezias, her twin brother. He would just look at both of them like, y'all dumb. Don't you see the wall? I just walk around it. Other people, that's just dumb. So
That's a Master Robertson thing. That's dumb as hell.
that's, his personality is very similar to Master Robinson's. Yes. Yeah. And how he learns, so to speak. Yes.
I'm number four on that. Instead of like Verzana going, "Oh, there's a wall here," I'm like, "Why does this hurt? Wait a minute."
Yes, you are. That is so true. Hey, knowing yourself. We all learn different ways. And we
Yeah,
can always change that, because if
yeah,
you know it, if you reflect upon it, and you're like, oh, because I knew too, like, you couldn't tell me stuff. I mean, even if I knew, I would probably like, no, I need to figure this out myself. And but most likely I learned very quickly. But just knowing yourself, that knowing that I need to figure stuff out, I don't have to hit the wall. I'll be like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I think I need to do it myself though. So it's just things that you pick up knowing and understanding yourself and how you work.
yeah, and that takes a lot of reflection. I
Yes.
truly believe that one thing that's missing from the world today is self-reflection and self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is because how I improved out of those conditionings and stuff like that, I had to keep asking myself, Some people just like, oh, well, I ask myself those questions. It's like, no, that's not enough. You have to ask yourself every day, what am I good at? What am I bad at? How can I improve? And the
Hmm.
biggest question for me every day was, how can I improve? How can I improve? How can I improve? And then all of a sudden, you start seeing things when you ask yourself these things. And then when you reflect on it, especially on the bad ones, when you're like not beating yourself up too much like how I used to, but when you go, okay, I did this and this, how can I change something? More
Hmm.
reflection like that and more self-awareness like that will get you, to me, I believe, to the place where you want to be, because the modality of your subconscious mind, especially with everything that you have already, the habits and everything else, that doesn't break overnight. And sometimes it's not the 21 days that they say, because the actual study says to break a habit is 21 to a year, 21 days to a year to break a habit. And it could take even longer depending on how long you've done something.
Right.
So I believe that is a huge, huge thing that we all need.
Yeah. To add to that, is very true. Reflection is important because then that kind of goes into knowing yourself and understanding yourself. I think the next step after that, and how my journey was, it was to accept and give yourself grace, because I'm really hard on myself. So it will be like, why didn't I do this? Or I knew this and I just still don't like it this way. Just always, okay. So it's a saying and everybody use it. And I don't think necessarily everybody understand what it means, but it is what it is, right? Um, but it's not a saying that you're supposed to say just to throw out there. It's just like really reflect on that. It is what it is, so I can't change it. So I could just need to accept it, and I just need to be okay with it. And if I stop fighting it, then everything will come to me. So I think for me, my personal journey, when that was, I did a lot of reflection, I did a lot of changes, but it was still very much unrest within me. And then once I start saying, but it's really, it kind of went hand to hand with trying not to control things and just go with it, just letting it be and just go with the flow and be okay with it. Really truly be okay with it. Okay, I'm right here at this point in my life. I'm not going to stay here, but at this point there's something I need to learn, so I'm just going to sit with it and I'll be okay with it. And that goes with a lot of pain. It's hard to for humans to sit with pain. So to sit with pain and embrace it, we tend to want to run away with it. And it goes hand in hand with, I want it now. I want happiness right now. I want it right now. Well, in order to get there, you have to go through the pain, right? So people understand that part, I think. But sitting with the pain, it's not getting over the pain, it's be embracing the pain. Okay, this hurts. This wall freaking hurt to walk into. And all right, it hurts. I'm feeling this. I'm okay with it. I'm not dying. So I'm just going to be here for a little bit, nurse it a little bit, be okay with it. And
Yeah.
then, yeah.
It's so funny that you say that, is because I remember Master Robertson actually telling me this, and it's from Choi, Young Hee, General Choi in
Yes.
Taekwondo. He said,
Yes.
pain is the best instructor, but no one wants to take his class. And that is absolutely true. I think there's a misinformation out there, especially with this law of attraction movement, that is just like, oh, you can't, don't think about the pain, be positive and stuff like that. But we need that. We need that to break open. Pain breaks you open. It breaks your mold open, that you're more receptive and open to things,
Mm-hmm.
and you can grow that way. Um, yeah, that's one thing that I agree with, and I also agree with letting it be. It's so funny. A friend of mine used to tell me, like, when things were hard, to listen to the Beatles song "Let It Be."
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a great song. It's a great song.
Yeah, and how I really got to that place, like you said, because I was the same way, super hard on myself, really super hard on myself and super
Mhm.
critical. And I get that, from parental, from growing up with my mom being super hard on me for any little thing. But meditation has been huge for me. I went to that meditation retreat to do Vipassana.
Mhm.
A- Allegedly, according to them, is the original teaching of the Buddha.
Yeah.
So it's starts off with anapana, which is breath work, and then vipassana, which is feeling in the body, and then metapana, sending energy out into the world. Um, that really centered me a lot. And don't get me wrong, it's not overnight. Like I still practice to this day. I practice. I'm getting a little more into transcendental meditation now. I
Huh.
feel more zen, which is really weird. I feel more zen and more less reactive when I'm doing Vipassana, but I feel like my personality has changed more with Transcendental. So it's almost like someone made the analogy of that Vipassana and Anapana, basically, it's like it lets you weather the storm on top
Mhm.
with the waves. It basically, because you're just observing. But they're saying Transcendental meditation is like a submarine that you go deep within yourself.
Yes.
So, I don't know if that's true, but in my personal experience, that's what I felt. So I do believe, like you said, that the people that are hard on ourselves, we need to know when to let go. And even though I'm not religious, that's why I like the serenity prayer, because it's
Mhm.
just like it shows you what you can control, control. What you can't control, let it go, and then have the wisdom to know the difference. Because sometimes we do get that mixed up. I can control this. I can control this. I can control this. Like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't control the weather.
Mhm.
you know?
Absolutely. And I think also it's super important to understand that I know for me the control issue was that, well, it's supposed to be this way, the society tells us it's supposed to be this way, and I think that was, once I let go of that, that was a big change for me too. Well, you know what, you're supposed to, meet somebody and then you get married and you have kids and you live happily ever after. I'm like, no, honey, that's not necessarily for everybody's story. Your story is different than than somebody else's story. And that was the beauty of understanding, of letting go of expectations, because you're expecting, I'm supposed to be this far in my life at this age. Like, no, because you haven't learned your lessons yet. You're supposed to learn certain things. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, and the traditional form is just like a guide. It's a guideline. It's not a you have to, it's not a must. It's a guideline, like, okay, well, you need to know certain things. It's the same thing as school, as martial arts. Like you start, there's certain guidelines you have to, accomplish in order to get to a certain spot, like let's say for black belt, but within that, like if you're in a class, uh, not one person looks the same. Like, we do in the same moves, but nobody looks the same, because it is your journey. It's you, and that's how life is supposed to be too. And you talked about meditation, and I think any type form of meditation, I think it's amazing. And I think people are like, well, I'm supposed to feel this depth when I do meditating. And I said, like, it's too much pressure on you. Just start by just sitting, once you, and then most likely you get guided, like you get guided to a different type of meditation. And that's what you like. And that's what it helps you at this point in your life. And I think that's how meditation's supposed to go. It is a personal journey, and this is how you start, and this is where you're going, because that's what you need in your life. You need more depth, maybe, and then you need to dig a little bit more what's going on inside, a little bit deeper, past drama and things like that. A trauma, not drama. That too.
Both.
No, but also same thing with yoga. So people say yoga, it's a very popular word at this point, or exercise, and I see there's such a variety, not necessarily of type, but people who do it, and unfortunately I have students that come and try out, and they very surprised. I'm like, oh, this is not the type of yoga I tried before. It could be, most of it, like 99% is, it's more positive, because I try to be more accepting of everybody. And it's not supposed, like, well, you're supposed to do this move, or you're supposed to look this way, and Instagram tells me to wear this, you know, and have this type of bottle of water or yoga mats. I recommend certain yoga mats because it's good for my yoga practice, not of how I look, you know? So it's that too. You have to be accepting, and that's why I love yoga so much. Is also a big symbolism of life for me, or my life paths, and I see life in yoga, different yoga paths, and how people take it and embrace it, so to speak. And we have to find what is right for you, and that's, I guess, how it came upon Ashtanga for me. But that's my path. But yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy, spot on for me. I think that people, like you said, expectations bring suffering. It really does. Which is really funny that, my best friend, who's like my mentor now, and he would say that all the time, is that expectations bring suffering, because you are locked in to, this is the way it needs to be, and then immense suffering happens after that. When we can just let it go. And what's funny is that I tend to sometimes, not a lot anymore, I tend to struggle with the, life's perfect and everything is as it's meant to be,
Yeah.
But if you ask all the great spiritual teachers, Wayne Dyer, Mother Teresa, they all have that in common. Life is perfect and everything is as it needs to be, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So, my spiritual side is like, yeah, I get that. My ego is like, hell no, man. What? It's like, my bank account doesn't say it's perfect, like.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of misconception on yoga and meditation, because everyone's expecting something out of it. And it's just like, you're supposed to just practice. That's
Yes.
it. You're just supposed to practice. Whatever happens out of practice. And I forgot, I want to look it up real quick, because there's a quote that I kind of butchered last time, so I don't want to butcher it now, but yeah, I want to look it up. It's about enlightenment. Oh, okay. So it says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
That's
And
right.
that's all it is. It's like, you're not supposed to reach for enlightenment. You're not supposed to do anything. It's just like, just be.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what I love about yoga too, is that when you teach me Ashtanga, is that there's nothing else going on.
That's right.
And what's really weird too, and maybe you have more knowledge, and we'll get into how you got into yoga, your path and journey. After my whole condition with the psoriasis and everything else, my body hasn't been the same. So it's like, it's been all weird. Everyone's like, oh, you're not lifting, you're not in the gym. I'm like, I want to, but right now, my journey, I can't. Like, I physically can't right now. But when I do yoga, there's like a healing that's happening. Like, at first, I can feel it, like the pain, and then it just subsides. And I'm practicing Ashtanga, which is harder, than most yogas, and I'm doing great. And then after practice, I go about my day, no pain. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is happening? But if I don't practice, which happened yesterday, I didn't practice, and my body was so out of whack that just walking yesterday, it was just going crazy, like sporadic. And I'm like, whoa, I was in so much pain. And I was like, I should have practiced today.
Interesting, because now you tap into something that I don't think everybody could physically see. But yoga, it stimulates your nervous system, because when you do the breath work and the physical movement together, everything. So yoga in itself, the word yoga means unite. So when you unite your body with the different planes and you can go into the rabbit hole here, but to keep it simple, like for people to understand and not be weirded out, the breath and the body, if it's unite and connect, your other system also connect and unite. And especially on the nervous system for you specifically, right? And that's why you see that. And it's like you have like proof in like the pudding right away. Not everybody sees that, because people can feel it, but not everybody can actually relate to it as well as you can. So that's amazing.
Well, thank you. And again, it's because of you, what you taught me. But not only that, what's really crazy is that two things. One, I saw the yoga documentary on Netflix, and it was on this gentleman. He was a photographer, a professional
Yeah.
photographer. Yes, so yeah.
Mhm.
And so for the viewers out there that probably don't know, this gentleman was a professional photographer, and he had an incident, I believe, that his left side, his arm, he could not use anymore. So they told him that he'll never do photography again. And someone told him to practice yoga, and not only did he practice, he healed himself completely, got full feeling and everything back in his left arm, and he dedicated his life in taking pictures and interviewing yogis around the world because of it. It was an absolutely phenomenal documentary. And again, here's my ego like, yeah, right, that's full of shit. And then when I practice, I'm like, holy shoot, there's something to this.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was, it's so funny, is like when I first practiced with you, I was going through a lot, with the psoriasis and other things. But again, bringing up Alan Watts, that we talked about earlier, he said that they tell you that if you never want to pay your karmic debt, never do yoga. Because when you do yoga, you open the door to your karmic debt. And all of a sudden now you have to pay that debt. So, and whether you believe it or not, there's something to that. Like you were saying on the unity part, because whether you believe in past lives, or not, or just what you've done in your life now in this time frame, there's a unity with all that you have to go through. And, I think it's fantastic. So, but yeah, Robin, tell us a little bit how you got into yoga, because as long as I've known you, it was strictly martial arts. And even though you were super flexible and that's what you were known for, I think that's what stood out between you and Master Robertson. You were always super flexible. You were always super strong too, and very disciplined. Like, how do I say this in the best way? There are a lot of people that practice in martial arts that are not disciplined. You can tell. It's almost like Arnold used to say, oh, I see people in the gym just doing this, but they're not there. You had that discipline that most people have never had. So, that you stood out in that way. So tell me how that just brought you into yoga. Because all of a sudden I was like, wait, she's traveling the world? Wait, whoa, she's in Bali right now? What is happening? It was just like out of the blue, sporadic for me.
That is so interesting. You tell me I was disciplined. I was like, I never see myself as disciplined. That's so funny. Yeah, I know, right? Okay.
What? Hold on. Can I give the example? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you an example of how disciplined she was. Okay. She played, she's more like me and Robin now have an awesome relationship now. But when I was young and I was more of a knucklehead, she had no problem immediately putting me in place. Well, because Master Robertson's super smooth, super laid back. You would never guess it. Like usually when you hear Master, you think, "Oh God, I have to like be in attention stance." And Master Robertson's super laid back, and so knucklehead me would try to take advantage of that. And nope, here comes Robin, making sure everyone was super in place and super disciplined. So when she says, "I don't think of myself as disciplined," okay.
Yes, no, I think I think it comes out to be in discipline, but I think it's because I had this great love for martial arts and I wanted to get it. And I wanted to, and then I kept opening doors because I just wanted more and more and more. And when I say more, I don't mean more moves. I wanted to understand, because I also realized at that point in my life, there was something else I needed to understand and learn. And the depth of martial arts is endless. So I kept digging. And unfortunately, unfortunately, of course, we had a master at Master Robson that is tremendously knowledgeable of it. So I got that part of it. But then we were also in an organization that probably wasn't heading that direction. And that's where I saw like, I want more. And I felt like this pool of learning. And that necessarily wasn't what got me into yoga. But I do think it did. But I was hurt. I was doing like an easy side kick, but I was cold. I was doing the basic form and I stuck my side kick and I heard click and I was hurt and I couldn't do my splits for like probably a year. And it was like, wow, it's just hard. And looking back at it now, it was definitely like my connective tissues in my hip because I was black and blue my other leg. So it was funny. Not really, but
Wow,
yes.
that's insane. I didn't know it was a year. Like to me, again, life just passes by so fast, but I didn't know it was a year that you couldn't do that.
Yes, yeah. So I was not able to do, and my side kicks, I still have to work it really hard and I have to be really precise and align my body properly not to hurt myself. So I work on that constantly to this day. And so I tried some yoga in like a small gym in like in a Botox place. It was funny because one of the instructors like, oh, I know a yoga teacher. And then so the yoga teacher moved around and I started, and it was hatha yoga. So I learned it was basic yoga, and I did that for a couple of years, just once a week. And then the organization we spoke about before was saying, well, yoga seemed to be the craze and we should tell people we teach yoga. And I'm like, but we don't. And he's like,
I'm sorry to laugh, but that is so true, ladies and gentlemen. And the deal is though, we and when I say we, I mean me, Robin and Master Robertson and our close group, we're very authentic people. So when we were told to do stuff like that, it really bothered us. It really bothered us to our core. So yeah, continue. Sorry.
yeah, so we were told that yoga was basically our warm-up and warm-up patterns. And if we just breathe a little bit longer, we can call it yoga plus. And I'm not giving this to our students. So, okay, well, fine. I will start teaching yoga, the ones and I really didn't want to, because at that point was, once you became an instructor in our organization, it was really hard to get your personal training. It was all about getting out, get more students and things like that, which I think was not in line to who we were. But so I was, I feel my personal belief is if I'm a good person and get my own practice going, then all I have to do is share it with more people. And that will make me a good instructor or teacher, whatever. And I still, to this day, don't like to say I teach yoga. I just share yoga, basically. But anyways, so I was there taking yoga, and then I started to teach. And I'm like, well, this is going to be a year and I'll be done. Okay, so that's probably been 7 years, 8 years. Oh, and it's been longer than that. Oh my goodness. How long it was. But and then at that time, Master Robertson, being who he is, very supportive of my individual journey, he one day said, I'm going to send you to India. I'm like, what? Yes, you're going to yoga teacher training. I'm like, what? And at that time I had twins. They were 2 years old. And I was like, there's no way I'm leaving my babies for a whole month. There's no way. But prior to that, he sent me to Bali to do yoga. I do have a childhood friend that lives in Bali. I'm very lucky for that. So I went to Bali. That's probably a year or maybe it was 6 months prior to India teacher training, just to do yoga. So I think that was the first time I was without my babies, and they were young, and that was 2 weeks. I almost died, but
As
but
any mother would say.
yes, but at that time it was beautiful. I loved it because even though it was really hard to be away from my kids, it was just something that I knew I was at the right point at time. First of all, Bali is magical. I just is another word for explaining Bali, but it is a something deep. You feel such a connection with the land, the island, the jungle, the ocean. I mean, it's just some energy that's just out of this world. And as a mother, always just focusing on building our business, taking care of you kids, making sure that the household is the way it's supposed to be, and all these other things. All of a sudden, I start to get connected with me again. And that was such a beautiful experience. So when I went to India, India is different than Bali. India pushes all the buttons because it is not, it's such a spiritual place, but it's also a place where it's not necessarily this beautiful, lush thing as in Bali. So in India, you see dirt, you see poverty, you see, or you smell smells that is not pleasant. You see, cow dung put up on the wall. You see older ladies urinating, standing up in her sari. It's just,
Wow.
it was, you're thrown into this culture. I mean, and thank God I knew martial arts, because like my self-defense radar has never been up so high as I was in India. But it also is this not magical, but it is a place as you feel this rooted spirituality and connection to past teachers and knowledge that you can't get anywhere else. So yeah.
That's super interesting because it's so funny how everyone says about Bali, and we're going to touch on that. Everyone says that. Everyone says they can't explain Bali. They're
Mhm.
like, there's just something there. Whether there's a higher frequency, like we said, going down a rabbit hole, whether it's a higher frequency, whether it's something, they say, everyone says that Bali, there's just something there. With India, though, that's really interesting you say that because what's shown on like TV and movies is just like, oh, it's so spiritual, you know what I mean? They emphasize on that. But I think the only time the way you're describing that you see like I wouldn't say true India. That's not a great way of saying it, but seeing that side because every place has that side to them. But seeing that side that you're describing, I think the only time I really saw that on a movie that wasn't like, oh, super spiritual was Slumdog Millionaire.
Yes.
That's
Hmm.
the only time I really, the way you're saying it, that's the only time I can picture it in my head. That's like, oh, that's what you mean, So that's really interesting. You say that, but um, again, that's not negating the side that it is a very spiritual place, like you're saying.
Now, India, I think it's hard to say India overall, because I think India depends on where you go. Like, so one part of India is this, one part of India, and it's extremes. It's definitely not the same. And if you talk to any Indian, I probably would tell you the same thing.
Mm.
And if you look at it, like you have the extreme poverty, but you also have, some of the richest people on earth they're Indian. It's just, you have these two extremes, and balancing that, finding peace in that, I think is my takeaway from India. Seeing, I have never been so fearful being a woman. Like, again, raised in Europe, it's the Swedes. We are like Swedish women have great equality, and we were raised a little bit different, very like I said, equal, and to a point that we probably is a little bit too strong in certain aspect. Um, so, and then America, I don't, I see a little bit difference. But when I came to India, I I was looked at in a really scary way, that I like my martial arts tenant was up, like we now walking down the street, we walking down to the left, and everybody knew I had some training, so they're like, well, we'll follow her. And I'm like,
Bodyguard.
yeah, you walk into a restaurant, and there's some restaurants women cannot be in, like they were not allowed. Like I
Wow.
had friends, they're like, well, what's the best Indian restaurant? It's like, it's this one, but you cannot go to that one. I'm like, why not? Like, you're a woman. I'm like, what?
Wow.
What is that? But I would walk into a restaurant, and I would, like, there's a knife right there, there's an exit right there. So, and if I sit here with my back against the wall, then I can see it's just, it was so interesting. And then there was places early in the morning, we rise really early in the morning, and we watch the sunrise and the rooftop, and it's this beautiful piece that come up with, you hear the chickens and the rooster, and you see life starting, monkeys, and things like that. This is just really beautiful place still amongst all this.
And what's really cool is that you were saying like how all of a sudden Master Robertson was like, "Hey, just go." So,
Yeah.
so touch upon the yoga experience over there when you were learning, because you told me a little bit when you came back, but share with the audience the little bit of experience that was.
Yeah. So early in the morning, we were up. I was up 4 a.m. every morning, and our practice started at 5 and ended at about 7:30. So 2.5 hours of strictly Ashtanga, and we did the full series. So it takes about that long to get through the whole series. And at that time, it was 20 people else to practice with me at the same time. And I think I was the only one who had done just like 1 week of Ashtanga before that. So I was like so out of place. And of course, there was probably 2 other ladies that practiced with me at the same time that was like my age, or a little bit older. All the other ones were 18, 20s, and here I was in my 40s already, right? So I was a little bit out of place, I felt. So we practiced, then we went for a short break, and then we walked over to our meditation guru's or teacher house. And we sat there and meditated. And of course, at that time, you were so tired. So I think probably 90% of the people was just fell asleep. It was interesting. The yoga teacher, I was like, oh, a real guru. Again, like always trying to find the authentic side. I was very excited. And, but I remember he said, totally relax. That was probably basically what he was saying. It's like, totally relaxed. And I'm like, well, I'm relaxed. But, and then that was his last class that he ever taught, because he passed right after that.
Wow, how
So,
lucky.
yes. So it was interesting. He showed us the house and the rooftop where he sometime meditated and things like that. But, and then after that, we walked home, and we passed the vegetable salesperson, this little cart of this older gentleman that didn't know a lick of English, but he knew how to understand what we wanted. We pointed, gave him some money, and he was very happy to see us every day. That was actually one of my highlights.
Hmm.
And then after that we had alignment. That's not the right word. So more of the asana in depth. So we broke down each posture. So we went and broke down each posture of the series. So how to do it better, how to help out, to support, to teach it, and so to speak. And then we had anatomy, we had yoga theory, which I was also very excited about. Older lady, they came in, but she She had, yeah, what was it called? So a little bit of Alzheimer's. Did she? So she was off sometimes. We were like, what is she saying? It was hard to follow, but I mean, I studied that afterwards. I wish I'd learned a little bit more in that class. And then we had pranayama, which is breath work, breath practice. So we practiced chanting and breathing, different type of breathing. And she was a hoot, that teacher too, very loud, because she has this breath control that was beyond me. You know, when she started chanting, I was like, wow, she's so loud. But she totally did the vibration in your body. And that's also a side that I would love to explore a little bit more about. Because I'm naturally not wanting to be loud. When I came to martial arts, I'm like, why do I have to yell? What is that? Do I really say? All of a sudden, I became the loudest one after a while. But, you know, now doing the yoga work, the yell comes from a different place.
Yeah. So that's so funny that you said about your yoga practice being so early in the morning. When I went to the meditation retreat, it was similar, very similar. So I've done it twice. I went to a retreat that was 12 days. So it's 10 days of work, but you got day 0 when you arrive, 10 days of work, and then on day 12, basically, you leave. Basically, on the meditation retreat, we were completely silent. No matter what, no eye contact, no physical touch. Men were separated from women. They had their own camps. We rose, I think, every morning. We rose, I think, like you said, around 4:30. And then our practice was, if I'm not mistaken, from 5 to 6:30. So like our first meditation was like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And like you said, everyone's all sleepy. You hear people still snoring and whatnot. And then throughout the day, obviously we had breaks, but it was nothing but meditation. And we went to bed around 10 at night. So it was just nothing but meditation.
I'm a little jealous. I need to do that.
You can. And what's awesome is it's donation based.
Yes, I remember. I helped you.
Yeah, it's donation based. So basically whatever you can give, and what's really awesome about that place is whatever you can give, they say give. They're like, if you don't have money, give food, because it helps them, you know, it's for the next person. But my point of that is that it expanded my awareness and my mental so much that when I came back, people were like, what's wrong with Danny? Because I'm super extroverted, I'm super charisma all over the place. But I was super observant when I came back. Like, I stood to myself, I was quiet, and I was just watching everybody. And so everyone was like, what's wrong with him? Was he on drugs? No.
Yes.
I was just high on life. So how did that experience expand your awareness? Like, how has it changed your life? Because obviously, like you said, it all started with an injury, a bodily injury, and then it ended up being more. So, you know, I think it's phenomenal that we were talking about pain. Think about it. It derailed you from your martial arts training. You're a hell of a martial artist that loves training. So it derailed you from training. You can't train the way you want to. So you're like, well, I got to do this. And look at this amazing journey that you went on. So how did that expand your awareness, the yoga practice?
So getting into Ashtanga was just like, I just knew, like the first class, I was just like, whoa. I mean, I did yoga before, but I never sweated in yoga. What is that? Like, what? Which is it? What? You know, there's certain things I can't do in yoga because, you know, things come easy for me. And that just piqued my interest. Like, I was like, whoa, I need to be able to do this. I want to do this. This is fun. So it's a challenge for me. So that's how I got into the Ashtanga part. So with the whole pain and the injury, I learned how to align my body properly. Now, when I came back, I needed to find a teacher. I knew I needed to find a teacher. And I was lucky that we had a level 2 authorized teacher here in Orlando, which is a whole different story. That's the political side of Ashtanga yoga. But just to say, we have a really good teacher here, Krista Shirley. I said that in Swedish. I don't know why I did that. Okay. I gotta roll my R. Okay. So unfortunately, she's injured right now, so she's taking some time off. But I found her And then I took her teacher training as well after a while. And again, that was also Master Robinson. It's like, oh yeah, I signed you up for this. I'm like, what?
It's amazing how things are just aligning for you,
Yes,
for it.
because he knew that I sometimes don't do that for myself. Like I would prioritize everybody else than my own training, but he did that for me, and that took me also to it deepened my practice in a different level because luckily she's just very knowledgeable when you're anatomy. So from going from that pain in martial arts now, and I was always very flexible, she taught me how to be even more flexible by doing it the right way. And by the right way, it was not going further. It was actually going back.
Mm.
It's just kind of, now when I think about it, it just kind of blew me back because that's like, I would bend down. It's hard to say when I verbalize it. I can show it to you, but it's more like when you bend down, you bend back to touch your toe. But to engage your feet, standing grounded, and press down and out to engage your entire leg all the way up to your hip. Now you don't put the pressure on your lower back when you forward fold. So at first it feels like you're not as flexible, but you then start stretching your connective tissues and your muscle correctly. So over time, all of a sudden I became way more flexible than I was before. And now in a safe way. Obviously, I was able to do the front left right split, but the middle split I was never able to do when I did martial arts. With a little bit of time, I can get down there. I can't just like, but a little bit of time because I have the knowledge of what muscles I need to support myself when I get down and align, my feet and the heels and the knees and things like that. And that all came from my Ashtanga practice, understanding how the breath works to relax or fire up. There's like you need both. To understand that you have to engage the right muscles in order to support so you can reach further. So you can twist deeper, get into the posture with more ease. You have to first create space in order to tighten it up more. I mean, it's just very fascinating to me on the physical side. So once I understood how the martial arts and the yoga was connected, I started out the Mysore teaching. I started teaching Mysore, which is just a way of teaching Ashtanga in my martial arts school. And I never really want to promote it in that sense. It's a service to our students. So if they understand that once they're ready, because not everybody's ready. Like everybody's like, I'm not doing yoga. I'm doing here for martial arts. Like, yoga is, not that superior to martial arts, right? So
I would disagree with that though. Honestly, if I ever heard that, I would disagree with that. I think just because yoga is gentle doesn't mean it's inferior. Like, obviously you were talking a lot about the physical side, but correct me if I'm wrong here. What I've heard was just how flexible you have to be in your mind as well. Like you had
yes,
to let go of a lot of things. And like you said, to go forward, sometimes you have to take a step back.
that's it.
So even though you were talking about the physical side, like you said, yoga's unity. So I didn't just take it for, oh, she just means physical. So, for our audience out there, she's really saying mentally too, because
Absolutely.
they're one and the same.
Yeah.
So if someone was like, oh, well, yoga's inferior, I'd be like, not necessarily, because I remember when I was bodybuilding, when I did yoga, everyone was so gentle and serene, and here I am like, I can't sweating like a pig,
Yeah.
while everyone's just so calm and gentle.
Well, see, those are the things. Like, but what I realized, in order for a yogi who is like looks like it's no effort at all. Those are the ones that put most effort, but the effort is on the inside. So especially when I teach balance, this is really a good way to see it or demonstrate it. It's everything is fired up in balance. So let's just even flip it. Let's headstands. everything is connected to headstands, but it is not your physical muscles. Like a lot of times, I remember teaching you headstands, and it was like you wanted to use those muscles, and I know you're athletic, and I'm like, no, get down, no, get down, because it's not sustainable. So you can get up, absolutely, but can you stay up there serene and in control? Because you don't have, first of all, you're upside down, so everything is twisted, right? And then you're struggling so hard with those big muscles, and when it really is a matter of first getting the alignment right, the base right, so the tripod right, then that's the most important. So make sure you don't cramp into your neck. But then when you lift, the people who lift without no effort understand the connection between your back and your front of your body, and the balance also comes with it. But you use those small muscles, and the breath, you can't breathe too hard or too slow. You have to be perfect balance with your breath. It is fascinating, and I never stop learning headstands, because as I'm teaching it, I've come across different people, and I say when I teach headstands, it's always reflecting on that person. Like some people, like I always want to control things. Well, guess what? It's going to be hard for you to do maybe headstands, because you have to let go of your control, because what you think you need to control is not what you need to control. So that reflect upon it in one person. Another person is like, well, I'm not physically talented, so and that person just have to do it in small little steps, and it's hard for them to see other people just come up right away, like gracefully, no problem at all, and they have to like deal with that a lot. So it's like, it's okay, it's your journey, right? So a little bit at a time, and then we celebrate the small little wins, like, oh my God, it's amazing for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then you have some people that just like, it looks like it's perfect. And then I sit and I always kind of like dissect it. Okay, well, let's add one more thing, like, well, and I'm not saying that I enjoy being a teacher because it teaches me. I learn first and foremost how I feel, how I portray things, how I analyze the posture, how I breathe, my own failures. And I embrace that so I can help other people. Because my ultimate, I think, passion is to inspire. Inspire myself first. And in order to inspire, I have to make sure I know myself first. And so if I can inspire just one person, that brings me so much joy.
Yeah, that's really funny that you say that now, because again, I can't do certain workouts. Like I said, I just have to do, I got to practice yoga, in which my ego now, like I said, with the understanding of letting go, I'm more at peace. I wouldn't say completely, but I'm more at peace than I was before.
Mm-hmm.
But in regards to headstands, is that I don't force it. Like, I'm heavier now, and I know it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, can I do this with control? And I'm like, no. So I do the baby step. I just on my
Mm-hmm.
head with my hands, and my feet are on the ground, and I just practice as if I was. And it's just
Yes.
like, this is the first step to the greater goal. And I do believe that, a lot of people out there, um, they really don't take those steps in small wins, like you say. That was my challenge for a long time.
Yeah.
It's funny because, I'm very traditional. I love traditional martial arts. I love the history of things. More so when I hung around you and Master Robertson. And one thing that I never got until now, recently, which is funny, I've been practicing for years in martial arts, is that the belt system, even though back in the day was just, oh, a belt around your waist, it got dirty, and that's when you got black belt. That's how you knew people trained. The belt system is the rewards it's the small steps. It's the
That's.
rewards for the small steps to that big goal of black belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been more grateful for that, up till now. Now I'm super grateful that I know that, because it's like, oh, This is why we do the belt stuff. It's not, oh, don't get me wrong. Some companies that we know would do it just for the money. But for
Mm-hmm.
us that are very authentic, this is the reward of, this is the next step in your journey. Awesome. It's improvement. And I think that us as humans need to do that more. We need to celebrate our small wins more. Just because you're not at the top of the mountain yet doesn't mean you're a failure. You are higher and you are um, further than when you originally were. And then on top of that, speaking of like yoga and things being in synchronicity of the world, is that you are at a place that some people dream of being. And that's insane. Like some people wish that they can have this conversation that me and you are having, you know? And it's really crazy what we take for granted when we don't have that reflection, you know?
Yeah. No, it's I think it's I can see it in others more easier than I can do it in myself. So I love celebrating others' victories. I love seeing people succeed. Like I love seeing like my friends achieve things that they didn't think they could. So having said that, I have a hard time doing that for myself though. Like I like you say, like, oh, you have done these things. I'm like, what have I done? Like, it's just I'm just here. I'm just here and achieving like what I feel I want to achieve at this point, and I don't feel any like I have to do this. Like technically, with martial arts, I could have tested for 6 Dan long time ago, but it's not important to me. As well as rank has never been important to me. It's important that I feel that I grow in my practice, and sometimes I take breaks and I forget, but then I come right back. And those two things are the only two things that I keep going. Like there's a lot of things I start and I stop. I love a lot of creating. I love creating stuff. So like crocheting, sewing, decorating, painting. I mean, you name it, I love it. Just gardening, whatever it is. But yoga and martial arts is something that kept me interested and kept me coming back to, and it's not learning new things. Sometimes it's going back and dissect what you already have learned and learn it a different way. We're learning it better. We're learning it over again, and just sometimes just repeating. And it's a beautiful thing with those two things for sure. So and I correlated so much with life itself. That's why I think yoga and martial arts always been so interesting to me.
So what would be your I hate to say it like this because we had it in the organization, but it's true. Like I know where they got it from because there are many speakers that say this, especially Stephen Covey. Um, what are your, because they change over time. What are your main principles and values now? And do you how do you say it? Do you think it's because of martial arts and yoga, or did it come from other places? Did it come from you know uh, your parents? Did it come from Master Robertson? Like what are the influences that have your current principles and values?
um I think all of the above,
Okay.
because every part in my life has led me to where I am. So my parents, my brother, my upbringing, the journey I took in martial arts, yoga, and of course, Master Robinson. It's all things, but I think mainly is the willing go back again, circle back, and the willingness to know myself, the willingness to reflect upon myself, and the willingness to let go of expectation and just see it for what it is, appreciate for what it is, recognize the pain, and knowing that I'm not going to be here forever. This is a lesson in it, and being grateful for that lesson. So where I am in life is really kind of what you said when you got out of your meditation camps. It's observing. I like to sit back, and now I love to study my kids. So I can learn so much about myself just studying my kids. And how they are, how they take on, how they learn things. Because seeing a kid learning something new is new for you. And how they process things is learning how you process things. So where I am now in my life is, right now I'm just observing what's next in my own life, but I always do it through my kids. And just enjoying that inner peace. So cliche, right? But the inner peace of acceptance. Like, okay, COVID was obviously a tough time for a lot of people, and I see so much. I hate to say it, so much like new things in my life that I appreciate, like the gratitude for so many things of our health, and being even more connected with my kids as a family, you know, and not having to plan so much. Go, always do, always perform, always, you know, just get to a certain point. Now it's just, this is where we're at, and it's perfectly fine. I think COVID had, like, it taught you, well, it has to be fine because you can't do nothing anyway. So,
So I like that. So would you say, correct me if I'm wrong, would you say what I got out of that would be reflection, self-awareness, gratitude, and acceptance is your main virtues right now?
absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And you're right, COVID, I think I'm glad we're touching on this before we wrap up. Isolation is not for everyone
Mm-hmm.
because it really makes you go within. It really
Yeah.
does. And it's a
Yes,
scary place.
it
It's
really
not
is.
for everyone. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. Honestly, my COVID experience, which is absolutely similar to yours, because I'm used to this meditation, and again, when you're on the retreat, you're in complete isolation. You know,
Yeah.
so your mind starts going crazy. It's not all sunshine and rainbows at this meditation retreat. On day 6, the thought of running away, that they will never catch me if I run as fast as I can, came into my head. And even though it's so silly because it's willing, like they're like, you can leave whenever you want, it doesn't matter, you know? But the thought in my head was, if I run as fast as I can, they can never catch me. Like it's really that, and when you're in isolation. But because I had that practice under my belt, I went within. I just meditated. I was grateful, gratitude. It really made me analyze myself. I reflected so much that I was like, okay, why are my finances like shit? Oh, my choices that I'm unaware of. And it made me realize that I'm very free spirited, very like outgoing, like you said, do, whatever, whatever. But I need structure to get shit done. Like I
Yes.
do that. I need a block schedule, and that's what I'm doing now. And you know, the days I don't block schedule is the days that are more freeing and like I can't do anything. But what's funny is that I was never liking schedules like that because I wanted to be free, not knowing the schedules is what makes me free to do what I want to do. So
Mm-hmm.
luckily, me and you and few others have gotten the positive side effects of these things, and I really do believe a letting go and just being and reflecting, like all the things that are your values, really would help in situations like that if anyone was ever isolated.
To follow up on that, I think it's super important that I think when we start searching, we're searching for things, just to like the one thing that's going to give us all the answers that we're looking for, and that one person that's going to teach you how to be you, or that one lesson that's just going to be eye-opening to you. You're like, oh, there it is. And I know this because that's what I did, right? So, and it was like a long journey of little things. And eventually I got to the point and we're like, I think I'm there. Like, I think I'm okay. Like, and it wasn't like this, it was more like, it was like that. It's like, it was not such a big deal of like, oh, now I understand everything, but I do understand everything.
Yeah.
Because if you approach things with not so much, with just very simplicity, because really what it is very simple.
I agree with you on that. On my personal level, which is so funny. My aha moments, as Oprah likes to call them, are usually when I'm in the shower, like reflecting.
That's a good place. Yeah.
Because, just hot water, you're not intending to do anything. You're in the shower and it's just my mind just flows. I know it sounds really silly, but it does. My mind just flows, and like obviously a lot of thoughts come in or whatever, but it's almost like a meditation. I'm not fighting it. I'm not doing anything. And all of a sudden when it flows, you just get this realization. Like yesterday I was listening to Alan Watts in the shower. I had it on my speaker and just listen. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's cool. But I'm just letting my mind flow. And then all of a sudden when I got out, this gratitude came over me for my girlfriend. And I was like, you know what? I should tell her. And I just went, and it was an aha moment. I was like, hey, babe, you know what? I'm really grateful for you. And she was like, what? And I was just like, yeah, and I was just like, just expressing my gratitude. And it's small moments like that, you realize certain things. It just, like you said, it's not this grand thing that angels are singing and light shines down on you. You know what I mean? It's none of that. It's whoa, this is really crazy. You know what I mean? It's just a bloop, here it is, and that's it. What would you say, as we come to wrap up, if someone wanted to, like our viewers, if they wanted to have this amazing journey with Ashtanga or martial arts, what would be the first step for them? Would it just be signing up for the yoga class, or do you think someone that really needs to do the research, because there is a lot of fluff out there?
Absolutely. So with that, I have a lot of experience in that. But I do think the only way to do the research, like, you can do the research on Google and stuff, but it's really just to go and experience it, because you will find, and be aware of like false prophet out there, I guess, whatever. But be aware of things that's a lot of promising, but just do the practice. Like if it's, let's say for Ashtanga, like there's definitely websites that you can go into and check to see who's authorized or has the certification of teaching the specific Ashtanga levels. And again, that's a political side I'm not even going to get into, but you can go in and learn how to find a teacher as well. Just go and try them out. You would feel it. Like you can feel a teacher that's the right one for you, and always trust your inner voice. I guess that's how I do it. I don't know if everybody feels it, but I do feel it right away. Like, no, or, yes. And I'm a great student. I love to listen, except for Master Robinson says I never listens to him, but that's not true.
That's different. That's a spouse thing. Everyone, even me and my girlfriend, sometimes we don't really agree, and it's just like, whatever.
But even with martial arts, it's not necessarily the organizations, because you can still find a really great instructor or master in, an organization that might not be the right, whatever, because, obviously we knew that. But you just have to you just go and try one out, and then go try a couple of them out. And of course, reach out to you. I'm sure you have, you know how to get a hold of, the right teachers or the right, or if you don't, then you can, just ask me or Master Robinson in that area they are in, if we know somebody. But it's hard to say, especially from Google. It could look great. Anybody can do a good website, and some people can do a great website and not great martial arts. And some people
Exactly.
do no website and have amazing martial arts, and um, so I think it's a part of taking the steps. It's a part of your journey. So, there's not one way to do it that way, because you might not need what I needed, and that person might need something totally different. So when they walk into a place, they feel it or they don't. And then sometimes if it was the wrong one, that was actually the right one, because that was the person who says that's not how it's supposed to be. So you go to the right one, so it's just,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really cool. Fear. What are some tips that you have for our viewers to get over that, who's afraid to start? Because obviously anything new is very, scary. So
Yeah.
how would you I wouldn't say how would you personally deal with fear, but you can do that too. But what tips would you give to overcome those fears? And I know just trying it out, but anything else mentally, how they can overcome that.
That is so funny, because yeah, I have lot of fears, actually. A lot of fears. And I think that's my personal battle myself. Like, no, I don't know if I'm afraid of failing, maybe looking funny or looking dumb. I don't know what exactly it is. I have a lot of fear. So I think that stops me from doing a lot of great things. And it's so sad. So I say, if you have fear, and if you battling like, I'm not sure, it's just do it. Like, you
Hmm.
you just got to take a breath and just do it anyway, because a little bit of fear is good, but you cannot let that stop you. And I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful. Like you have heard throughout the story, I've been telling you, like I have Master Robson that's been kind of pushing me to things that he sees in me and push me to do. I mean, of course, I still have to go to India. I still had to do all these things, but it's that initial, like he kind of kicked me in my butt, like, no, you need to do this, and from the start, I'm not a competitive person, and he put me in the first competition in martial arts without telling me. Like he said, just wear your dobok and let's go show and I was like, I think green belt at the time. And oh yeah, when we're in there, by the way, you're competing. I'm like, no way. And of course, I won every time he has told me to do something. But it is just to do it anyway, because there's no other way. Like there's no like formula to say, well, if you breathe 3 times and turn around 2, you just have to just do it. And it's gonna, and do it with the fear, because when I do things that's new, I'm nervous, but I will just take the first step, and then I will just do it. But I'm still very fearful, but I'm going through the process anyway. So, and it's gonna get, and it always gets better right away with me, But the first day, once I understand, once I am more familiar with the surrounding or the situation, I'm like, all right, good. Unless you tell me to jump out of a plane, because no.
That's very, very spot on from a lot of people that I hear that are, successful, like in your area and other things, is that one of my other mentors, she used to say that. She used to say, feel the fear, but do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's been such a phenomenal thing. I also heard somewhere that courage is not the absence of fear, it's feeling the fear, but doing it anyway. So,
Absolutely. Yep.
so for me, personally, there are some times, and I want everyone to understand very, very clearly, is that fear, like you were saying, Robin, doesn't go away. It doesn't go away off the bat. It's something that it's almost like a relapse. Sometimes you're like, well, I'm not doing it, and you don't do it, but that's okay. Don't be hard on yourself, because yeah, it is scary. But the more that you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and the more you push yourself or surround yourself with great people, you know, Robin has, Master Robertson has a lot of people that are in my inner circle that I feel like they're not just friends, they're family. Those are the people that you want around that are better than you, that are positive, and that will push you. You don't want yes people around you. You don't want to,
Yeah.
yes, you can do, you know what I mean? Like, you don't
Yes, I
want
do.
that. Yeah, you don't want like, oh, well, it's okay to be afraid, don't do it. You don't want that. What you want is someone to say, no, get out of your head and do it. That's how I tested for
Hmm.
third dawn. You and
Hmm.
Master Robertson were the ones that are like,
Hmm.
man, it's been too long. Like, what are you doing?
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go, do it. And I was afraid. I was afraid not because of the belt. I was afraid of what the belt represented, and I wasn't that. Just to find out that you have to do it to match
Yeah.
that. You have to do it to become that. So yeah,
Hmm.
that is great response. And as we wrap up, what is next for you? What do you want to accomplish next, either in yoga,
Hmm.
martial arts, or any new endeavors, well, both tangibly and mentally too?
Yeah, I think mine is mainly getting more in deeper into the other aspects of yoga. I mean, continue physically practice. I'll be very blessed to be able to do that. And but more of getting into a little bit deeper into meditation aspect of different types of meditation. I've been thinking about a little bit of Reiki as well. I think that's interesting, and I do have a student of mine who's a master in that. So hello, so I might do that a little bit, and then also with the martial arts, getting I one of my goals there is to also go to Korea and do a history connection with taekwondo. We went to China, and that was phenomenal. Just to get to the root and the birthplace of taekwondo. I like to see that. I like to experience that, and just be around like-minded people, and continue practice, because that's always it's never really a stop. So, but like you said, I love to get into the mental part of anything. So continue growing into this new, very simple thought processes, would be something I would strive for. And then just create. I love to create. So love creating anything that's just I see beauty in. Like whether it's the garden, or whether it's racing kids, or whether it is creating the new pumse a certain way, or practicing the form in with the different type of breath count, or whatever it might be. What I see beauty in a lot of things. So that's what I like to do.
Awesome. And last but not least, your top five things, or books that can help people expand their awareness. We all know yoga's one. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so top five for you, to the audience, what can they do to expand themselves mentally and spiritually?
Oh, wow. So if you are a book reader, definitely there's so many great books out there. So I'm not necessarily a book reader. I love reading books, but not that type of books. It's just not how I learn. It's a weirdest thing ever. But if you're a woman, and you into yoga, there's something that's called Strength and Grace. Some Ashtangi women that it's short stories about their journeys, and I do enjoy reading those kind of books. But I can't. It's hard for me to read like this Yoga Sutras, which is basically the Bible of yoga, right? It's hard for me. I have to dissect it, and I can read sections at a time. But if you're a book reader, there's maybe Yoga Sutras, definitely one of them. Um, but for me, it's always do. Like I just go and start practicing. Anything physical would always lead me to my mental journey. So it's all very connected. So do first, and then connect it and reflect, like a lot of the reflection. So every time I do a practice, either whether it's a class or if it's a practice in yoga, I tend to sit and reflect, not so much if it was good or bad, but more of like, how do I feel? And just to kind of take stock. So that is number one. It's always do, like physically do. Two would be, know that, have a little bit more patience. Like we want to learn things now. It's like a microwave. Like we want to get it now. Just be patient in what you're doing. You don't switch around, jump around too much. Like focus on this. It might lead you to other things, but just stick with it. Have patience with yourself and your own journey. That's, I think, we've seen so many people coming in and out of the dojo and like, yeah, and they're so gung-ho, and we're like, yes. And then, after blue belt, I'm like, where did they go? Like, what happened? Like there's so much talent. They don't have the patience to just be and stick with it and learn and continue growing, because they're like, I got it. Now I can go out and do something else, There's so much more into, especially something like martial arts and yoga. So have patience with yourself. And then 3 would be always seek people with more knowledge than you. So surround yourself, or listen to podcasts, listen to books, or read books. And I guess that goes along with it. I do like watching documentaries of things like you did with Netflix, the photographer that went into yoga. So then you learn a little bit of things. So you have to find a way that educate you and how you love to learn. And then 4 would be, I think not changing your life, but more make time for the things that brings you joy. Because we have so many musts and pressures and expectations, like carving out 30 minutes or in the morning, just like 5 minutes for meditation is amazing. Just start out that day, and that way. Just carve out some time for you to reflect on you and being with you, and don't feel bad about it, because you have to take care of yourself first. You have to, find ways that brings you joy, and just you. You can bring you joy to hook up with your girlfriends, and you can go out for a glass of wine. That brings me a lot of joy too. But that's not necessarily. You have to find time to grow you, and then just kind of have a conversation with yourself. Like, hey, how you doing, Robin? How you feeling today? And it's like getting to know yourself for sure. Spending time with you. What brings you joy? It could be anything. 5 is be of service. I think how you learn, how I learn more about my own practice is it's like a balance of me learning me, but then also how do I get that person to understand this? So I try to find ways to communicate that. So in that way, I kind of test it out on myself. Like if I do this, if I say it this way, would that? So be of service of helping others, serving others for no other purpose of serving others.
I'm glad you made that distinction.
Yes.
Because it's so cliche to say, service to others, but service to get something in return is not real service. That's not being a person of value.
No, not at all. And it's like a double-edged sword, because service of others for no other reason, for service that actually brings you joy. So it is actually something that you get. But that's not why you're doing it. Like like last night I had a yoga practice, a class, and nobody was there. So one lady was like, well, I was going to leave. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. He's like, well, you're going to leave, so I'm leaving. So she was trying to blame it on me. I'm like, no. listen, then you don't know me, because if it's one person here, I would totally do the class, and and that doesn't matter if it's 1 or 51. I don't care, you know. So it's just because I'm sharing my teaching. Again, I'm not teaching, I'm sharing what my knowledge, and that brings me a lot of joy in itself. Service of others is not necessarily, it could be different from each person, but that's how I know I do it the way most authentically. Like, I don't like to just start doing because it's easy for me to just do. And then I get lost, and then I feel resentment because then I do too much, you know. So, and I got to a point in my life that I reserve a lot of things. I don't promise. I don't, when I do, and that's with my words, I don't give out compliments unless I really, truly mean them. So if I compliment you, then you know that it's from the most genuine source. I truly believe it. I truly feel it. And I'm genuine with my actions. I don't do things that just so, oh, I'm supposed to do this. No, I do it because I want to do it. If I don't want to do it, I'm just not going to do it, because then, and not because I'm being selfish. It's more of like, I need to do it from authentic self, because I don't like to be just false. So service of other includes that. I love to give of myself. Like this is a conversation to me. Like, that's not even like, I'm not even thinking about like, oh, do I say something out of value? I just share with you, like, so in most authentic way that I know how. If it can help somebody, great. If it's like, whatever, lady, you know, it is. But at least I got from mine. I'm not worried about that. It's because I'm more worried to try to sound like somebody that I'm not. So that's important. Be service of others. So
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I'm glad that you mentioned to do it for yourself, which was your number 4, which is great that it ties into one another, is that you can't be of service to others if you're not of service to yourself. So I'm
absolutely.
glad they go hand in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Robin Robertson.
Woo-hoo.
So thank you for being oh, the cue applause, right? Like the sitcoms. So Robin, tell us where we can find you, you know, website or anything that you actually want to promote right now.
Sure. Our website for Robertson Martial Arts, it's www.robertsonmartialarts.com. Uh, you will see that's our school. You will see, you know, the yoga times also when I teach. You see some of the different yogas that I'm teaching, and of course the martial arts. We're on Facebook too, same name, Robertson's Martial Arts, and also on Instagram. So, and I share some. I'm also on Instagram myself. I have a yoga one, and then I have one that's private, and not private, but my personal sort of thing. So, but anybody can definitely follow me on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm Robin Tiberia Robertson, which is my maiden name. And there you can find all my different IG accounts as well.
Awesome. And I will make sure that some of those links are down below in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I hope that you got some value out of this. And as always, we love you. Be safe. Talk to you next time.
Yes, sir. Namaste.